Okay, all right, good, all right. It's just, everything's gonna take getting used to, so. Looks like it, so, welcome to Saturday night. I was wondering if, the couches would be used, it looks like they're gonna be used, right? It's, okay, so everybody's good with that. All right, and so, what do you think of the space?
Great. I love it.
Well, we still got stuff that's gotta be moved and I wanna thank Willie for all his help. He helped get this part of the thing done and he even cleaned the carpets and so, we had to do some gluing and some of these carpet things. We did some in the back. Did that work back in the back, Willie? And so anyway, we'll make this space ours. We're not done. We're still got stuff to do. Thank you for bringing that cabinet over and so, we are trying to fit in. And for you out on the internet, welcome to Saturday Night Live Life Recovery. We are in our new space. This is 501 Virginia, sitting right on the corner. You have to come in off of the parking lot side. There's a side door there. We have it propped open tonight. There are signs out there pointing Saturday Night Live Life Recovery meeting. So, if you've been around Joplin for a while, it used to be the old License Bureau building many, many years ago, 15 or 20 years ago. So anyway, now, okay. And welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
And it's good to have Austin back with in a while. Yeah, glad you're here and hadn't seen Tina for a bit, so glad you're here. And so anyway, I am open to suggestions, good ones or bad ones. If anybody comes up with some thoughts, things that you can see, I will be, I'm interested in listening. I am going to set up my Thursday studio somehow, some way. I'm thinking kind of right in this area right here. So we'll see what happens there. In case you didn't know, I try to do a video on Thursdays and I go on all the same 5 platforms and talk about different things. And so I haven't been able to do it because if there's anything extra in my week, I have to find a slot somewhere. So it usually takes that. If I have funerals, which I handle most of the church's funerals, or any extra stuff, last little bit, we've been working on trying to get this done. So I've been trying to use that particular time, both the study time and the time that we present. But anyway, so tonight we're going to be talking about long-awaited healing out of Genesis 33, 1 through 11. So I've got a question for you. What do you think long-awaited healing means?
It's been readily available, but it's been waiting for us to accept it or be willing to take it.
Wow, that's pretty good. That's on target. Yes. So, speak up.
Willing to submit to God to get it.
Okay, yes, all right. That's basically the same thing said in a few different words, but that's good.
What chapter that is again?
What chapter it is?
Yeah.
You're talking about the scripture reference?
Yeah.
Scripture reference is out of Genesis 33, 1 through 11. It's if you have the Life Recovery Bible, it's on page 45, I think, or something like that. Who said 49? It's on page 49 if you have the Life Recovery Bible. And if you're on the workbook, it's page 83. How's that? Huh? And so, anyway, so, long-awaited healing, and basically, those comments were good, that, it's something that we wanted, but we, hadn't got it yet. So that leads me to the next question. Do you have an idea what my next question is?
How do we get it?
That's not the next question, but that's pretty close. I think that'll be about the next question after the next question. Next question is, what has prevented us from getting it?
Leaving in way,
Excuse me?
leaving in way.
You being in the way, yes, we're not, we haven't put ourselves in the right posture or position, to be able to receive that we want. We want it, but could it be that maybe we didn't totally want it?
God gave us the freedom of free will.
Mm-hmm.
Choose
Good.
what we want, and we ought to choose what we want, not what God wants.
And so, in the lesson tonight, out of Genesis 33 is Jacob. It's an interesting fact, and you can see it through all the biblical stories, how God takes people through a journey, as we've all been on journeys, to help us to learn what it is that we want and need to learn. But what we want and need to learn, sometimes we resist that learning. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Hello. And Jacob, he wanted God's blessing and inheritance. He wanted the money from him he wanted to be number one over his twin brother, which his twin brother was supposed to have the blessing, but he came home and he didn't value the blessing. This is some of the lessons here. He didn't value the blessing. He didn't appreciate what he had. I mean, he had skills. He was a hunter and he was tough, but he didn't really appreciate what God could do for him. He was basically focused. I mean, everything was provided for him pretty much already, and plus he had good skills. So he was willing to trade his inheritance for a bowl of soup, because it wasn't of any big value. Does that sound like anybody you know? None of you, I know, would ever trade your dignity for something.
Water
Yeah. And so then, the interesting part of this story was his mom helped him and instigate this trickery to trick his dad to give him the blessing. But his brother then, when he realized that he was left out, he couldn't get it now, because now maybe he didn't value it, but at least he thought it was probably his anyway. You know how it is. Then he was ready to kill his brother, so he had to hit the road, Jack, right? And probably don't come back, right? But he did. And so he took off. Now, I said all that to bring us up to speed here, because I don't want to give it all away, because I don't know what Tommy and Willie's going to be saying here. But I thought I wanted to lay some groundwork in the lesson. So he went to his uncle Laban, and he fell in love with a woman, and he got tricked. Anybody here ever got tricked?
No.
And he worked 7 years for a woman, and then he didn't get the woman, he got her sister. That was a trick. So he worked another 7 years to get the woman that he wanted. So now he's worked 14 years for 2 women. And then he worked, funny, remember, he was a deceiver, and he was deceived. That we do, we seem to get done to us. Have you ever noticed that?
We reap what we sow.
We do reap what we sow. The biggest problem with liars is they can't get anybody to believe them, right? And so then he worked another 6 years, 20 years. He worked for this man that cheated him 10 times, I think the Bible said, throughout his arc. And but God intervened at certain places in Jacob's life. Even when he ran from his brother in the very beginning, he made it a alliance with God. Now, just like most of us, we know what we should do, but we don't always keep up our end of the bargain. Have you ever noticed that? Amen or oh me, right? Hello. And but God always keeps up his end. And he worked with Jacob even when he was at Uncle Laban's house, because what he needed was Uncle Laban and to help him to learn what he needed to learn with God's help. Have you ever found that out to be so in your own life? Difficulties seem to teach us what we need to know. Sometimes they call it, her phone's buzzing. Sometimes it's metal bars and pretty bracelets, something like that. Have you ever known? And it helps us to get the message. Did you notice how quiet it was right then? And so, and that's because maybe, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking it may be because of real stubborn, hard-headed, stiff-necked individuals that had to learn that type of behavior to learn how to survive in their present world. But then sometimes that goes too far. Hello? So, and we're talking about Jacob tonight, but he went out into this world and he was able to make those moves. And the interesting things was God told him what to do to even help him gain his own herds in dreams. And he guided him through this. And when he thought he was going to be probably killed by his brother when he met him, by the way, he sent a message to his brother and says, hey, I want you to be friendly with me. I'm coming back home. But he's scared to death because he knew that his brother wanted to kill him when he left. Oh yeah, it's been 20 years, but hey, some people hold a grudge. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And but God and worked with him even the night before he met his brother. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure we pointed that out, that even though we may not be perfect, and none of us are, God continues to intervene in our life to give us an idea or a direction, and then it's entirely up to us to make the choice whether to or whether not to. How about that? Does that make sense? So choose you this day whom you will serve, right? And then hopefully stick with it. So anyway, we'll be talking about that. That was something I was going to read pertaining to that. And we'll see. Well, I keep looking for my clock, so anyway. 7:16. Well, I've burned up enough time, right? So, all right, guys, come on down. Let's have some music. And I'm going to apologize to the internet people. We haven't quite got it running through the soundboard, which will get it better into the internet things. They told me tonight, we gotta order a $200 part to be able to do that, so anyway. Ouch. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Since I believe my burden down. Lord, since I believe my burden down. Burden down, Lord, burden down.
Yeah, that's it.
There you go. Get rid of your dog.
I do well. For now. 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.
I hear you, Jimmy.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Get set.
Rings, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was, but now was blind, but now I see. Was
Take it out of you.
It just every now and then I really think about what those words mean and how deep they are, and yeah, it really does take it out of me.
I think we need to think about the words we sing, and especially the gospel songs.
Sometimes you get lost up here, it just being a thing, you know?
I understand, but
Yeah.
the audience too.
Yeah.
We don't think about what we sing. We don't think about what we said. We don't think about the seeds that our words plant into the earth,
Yeah,
into our lives and others' lives.
thank you, John. Jesus, lover of my soul. Jesus, I will let you take me. Set my feet upon the rock. Now you're my world before I need you. My Savior, my closest friend. I will worship you until the Next up, John, right?
Step one, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step two, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step three, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step four, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step five, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step six, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step seven, we humbly had asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step eight, we made a list of all persons who we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step nine, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and power to carry it out. Step 12, having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Long-awaited healing, step 9. We made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Returning to someone we have hurt is a scary thing. The passing years, lack of communication, and memories of anger and hateful emotional exchanges can create tremendous anxiety. Even though we may make some contact through a third party, there will still be tension until we see that person face to face. This was the case for Jacob upon returning to Esau.
Can we stop right there?
Yeah,
Do we understand what was going on there in light of step 9?
there could be tension with the other party. and-
Well, no, that he's making,
Attempt to return to someone.
which is what we're calling amends, right?
Yes,
So he's he's working on a biblical way of making amends with his brother, which is what I started talking about a while ago.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to point that out. He sent a messenger to make the message. And so he started doing it. But even if you've talked with somebody on, by a third person, you know,
You don't know if the message. is
we
gonna
don't
be
know how
delivered.
it's going to go. Okay, at least the messenger may come back live. So, but you know, so anyway, so this is about making amends, and you have to start somewhere, right?
Yes,
And you have to go through and deal with your own fear.
true.
And we're talking about, you know, we've been talking about forgiveness and healing, the 10 protocols, which we're going to touch on again tonight. And it's about, we do all these different things, but when it comes down to it, it's about our healing. And that's what we're talking about tonight, is long-awaited healing. We put off this spiritual, physical, and emotional healing long enough. Now it's time to do something about it.
Yes, it is.
And that's what step 9 is about. Does that make sense?
And you making amends, you can try to trick him for more too, right?
Well, he's making amends yet. Well, he didn't trick his brother about the bowl of soup. What he did is he deceived his father for pretending to be his brother and to get the blessing. But his brother sold him the blessing. And I don't even know if you could do that or not, but that's, I mean, and so it was a way of trying to deceive, to get what he wanted by deception. And so, of course, he came by this, his dad had some of this in him too. So it's a family trait, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Family tradition.
Yeah, it started even with Grandpa. So, you know who Grandpa was?
Who was Grandpa?
Isaac?
Abraham.
Abraham, Father Abraham, yes.
So, go.
This was the case for Jacob upon returning to Esau. In Genesis 33, 1, 3-4, it says, Then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with his 400 men. Then Jacob went on ahead.
Hang a second.
Wait,
So what would you think when your brother that said he was going to kill you was coming down the road with 400 guys?
hide.
How many guys take about?
They didn't say how many people he had. Actually, though, he was pretty much by himself on the road there. He actually, as the story's going to tell, he actually sent some animals ahead, some goats and sheep and camels, and donkeys. I think that was all of them, as gifts. And we're talking 20 females of each, and then some males too, like five males, and as a blessing or as a gift to his brother, and to try to in the attempt to make a form of amends. All right, so we're talking about amends, but he don't know if it's working yet, right?
Oh, yes,
So that's where we're at. Has anybody ever been in this situation?
yes.
Yeah. Well, we probably all have. The rest of you just didn't want to raise your hand, and so it's kind of scary. Because why? Because now you're becoming vulnerable. Now, this is not about his brother, even though it involves his brother. It's about healing himself. Don't miss it. This is long-awaited healing. He's been on the run for 20 years. Anybody here been on the run? So he's been on the run for 20 years. And he's wanting to try to get whole again. Okay? And it's not so easy, is it, Tommy?
No, not always. Not always.
Hardly ever,
Yeah.
I think. I may be wrong about that, but I think hardly ever. Because we have to make a shift in ourselves. We have to take responsibility for the crap that we did and work it through our own system. And it's not just giving the gifts. It's not just saying, I'm sorry. It's making the change. It's about our healing. It's about allowing ourselves to heal from our own self-inflicted traumas.
Make amends to yourself.
As part of that, absolutely. And then thinking differently. Because see, as long as you see yourself as an alcoholic or a drug addict or a sex addict or a gambler or a glutton or a rageaholic, as long as you see yourself in that way, you're locked in, right?
Yes.
And until you can start to turn that around, and the way we turn it around, we change our thinking. But how do we know when it's really changed? Our behaviors and our emotions change. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You start thinking differently, you start feeling differently, and you start behaving differently.
Behaving.
He, instead of going after everything he could get, he was given. That's a definite sign. Okay? But he was still scared. But, you know, God had met with him many different times throughout these 20 years to help him. Has God met with you on your running and gunning days?
Yes.
Or even the days that you're trying not to run and gun? Hello? Yeah. Okay? And so he's pulling for you. And so am I. And so is everybody else in this room. Okay, let's go.
Then-
Anybody have anything you want to say? I know hopefully I haven't messed you up too bad.
No, you're right.
I'm stuck thinking about how Esau, from Esau's perspective, like, did he think, oh, well, he's just buttering me up, or he's gloating about, that's how I would feel anyway. Is he gloating about, he's sending me stuff that was originally my blessing, is he buttering me up and just rubbing it in my face?
Well, see, that wasn't anything coming out of their dad's house. This was he brought with him from. When he left, he didn't take anything.
He didn't get the, he got the blessing.
Yeah, he got the blessing, but he got the gun, and he got ran off. Okay, so to speak, and so he lived in basically poverty for a long time, because most of his first 14 years was about getting the woman that he wanted. And then God worked with him. You ought to read the story. God worked with him, and Laban kept changing how he was going to earn money in the last 4 years. So he changed his wages 10 times. Okay,
He was reaping what he sowed.
do I?
He was reaping what he sowed.
Yeah, and he had to have a good spirit about it, and he operated with integrity. In fact, when Laban chased him down after he left, and he said, even when one of your flock died, I made up the difference. I paid for it. I didn't make you pay for it. When it got killed or stolen or something happened to him, I took the weight of it. It didn't go to you. I made up the difference. See, that was again some of his change. That's what Jacob did to his uncle Laban, that had been screwing him over for 14 plus up to 20 years. Okay, he was good to the guy that was messing with him, but guess what? Jacob was getting what he needed. He was getting to be transformed. He was getting to learn something different. He had to start behaving to be a giver instead of a taker, and telling the truth instead of lying and deceiving. And you got me to go to preaching there. so.
But thank you.
But he asked the question, what are all these animals that come my way? You know, that's what he said in the scriptures. And he said, well, those are gifts for you. He already knew what they were because he instructed all of his herdsmen to say a particular sentence about these animals are for our Lord, from our servant Jacob, for our Lord Esau. These are yours, you know, and you know, and it goes on to say, I'm going to butt in here one more time, just one more thing, if that's all right.
Yes.
It goes on to say that, you know, even after they meet, they make up. The scripture makes a statement. Even though they share love and they kiss each other on the cheek, and they rekindled love, that still didn't take away all of the anger
Bitterness.
and the bitterness and the hurt. That has to be processed. But it's a good start, right? It's a beginning. You got to have a beginning. You're right. You got to have a beginning. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, I'm gonna start back with, then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with his 400 men. Then Jacob went on ahead. Esau ran to meet him and embraced him.
I want to make sure that I want to point this out. I know I'm but through what they gave us here out of our the condensed version of the scriptures. Jacob, the night before, he was really scared about his brother. Okay. And he knew that he had 400 men because one of the messengers already came back and said, he's on his way with 400 guys. Okay. And so he thought, well, I'm going to take my wife. I'm going to separate things. I'm going to take the kids, my 2 wives, my servant wives, and I'm going to put them over on one side of the river. And if he wipes out, maybe he'll only wipe out half of what I got. That was his plan before that night. That night is when God met with him, and he wrestled with the angel all night long. And he said, I won't let you go until you bless me. And that's where he touched him on the thigh, knocked his hip out of joint, and told him his new name was Israel. And that was that one that wrestles with God or fights with God. Not fighting in the sense of fight against God, but, you know, in the midst of, sometimes we fight with God to help us to get transformed. You know what I'm talking about? Anybody ever had any of those fights? Yes. Our biggest enemy is in me, right? And so all we have to do is, I think what you said a while ago, John, was to be willing to do what we want to do. And that's have that relationship with God, to submit to him, to surrender. Shut up, Doug. Go ahead.
Thank you. Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they both wept. In Genesis 33, 8-11, after being introduced to Jacob's family, Esau asked, and what were all the flocks and the herds I met as I come? Jacob replied, they are a gift, my lord, to ensure your friendship. My brother, I have plenty, Esau answered. Keep what you have for yourself. But Jacob insisted, no, if I have found favor with you, please accept this gift from me. And what a relief to see your friendly smile. It is like seeing the face of God. Please take this gift I have brought you, for God has been very gracious to me. I have more than enough. And because Jacob insisted, Esau finally accepted the gift. That's a big. Big step.
It was a big step because that meant that he was willing to start to go down that road of forgiveness. I believe.
He opened it up,
He
yeah.
opened it up
Yeah.
and what Jacob was needing was he was needing to see that, gain that favor, because if he would open up, that it would be like God smiling on him. And that's all he wants, is to get right with himself, with God, with his family, with his community. Isn't that what we all want?
Yes.
Because until we're right with God and right with ourselves and right with those that are around us and our community, then we're in a state of dysregulation, emotional, spiritual, physical dysregulation.
That's a good way to put that. Dysregulation. Jacob's tremendous fear gave way to relief. The last time Jacob had seen Esau, Jacob was in fear for his life. With the passing of time, both of them had changed. When Jacob faced his brother, he found that there was still affection, and even though they both remembered the pain, they chose to work through it.
Yes.
It sounds like.
And the reality is, to be able to work through it, both have to change.
Sounded like there was a little kicking and screaming, but they both sounded like they were working for that.
Well, that's isn't that the way that it is?
Very true.
So, what do you think about what you've read? What'd you learn out of this?
I learned that sometimes even though something's gonna hurt really bad to do, maybe it's not so bad to give it a chance. To try. To make that step.
What would happen if you didn't give it a chance?
Then it would remain idle. It would remain something undealt with.
And then what would that cause in your life?
Resentments, fear of rejection,
And what would that cause?
isolation,
And what would that cause?
addiction.
And what would that cause?
Oh, a number of storms.
Okay.
Because,
What?
It was chaos.
Cause chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos? What'd you say?
Dysregulation.
I couldn't hear you.
Dysregulation.
Dysregulation, absolutely.
Yes.
And when you're dysregulated, that means you're mentally, emotionally, physically, your immune system is dysregulated. And if your immune system is dysregulated, then that means you're susceptible to get physically ill, right?
Yes.
And if you're mentally dysregulated, then you're apt to get mentally ill. What if you're emotionally dysregulated, then you're apt to get emotionally
Yeah.
dysregulated and ill. Do you,
Involved in like 666.
does that make sense?
Yes.
And so when we, because we all know stuff that we need to deal with, I would say, that haven't dealt with, and that that does something to you, right? Now, Apostle Paul had some of that, and he called it the thorn in the flesh.
Yes, it did.
Now, of course, you probably don't have any, so that means you're better than Apostle Paul. What do you think about that one? So, what else did you learn, Tommy? Anything?
Well, I had a hard time with this one
You have a hard time with all of them.
because I got this anxiety when I read the first part of this. I just got this anxiety, like, what if I was in that situation and I was dealing with like my brother,
Uh-huh.
30 years of not seeing him,
Uh-huh,
and all these feelings just worked up in me,
uh-huh. Congratulations.
and it was like, it was an explosion
Yes,
everywhere in my brain, right
Yes.
in here.
Uh-huh.
I could feel it in different parts of my body. And I was like, I wonder if this is what it would be like, though.
Yeah,
Who knows?
very well
Yeah,
probably was. And for, you know, where along the line did that start on Jacob?
yeah,
Well, was it just on the 20th year?
no,
Or was it somewhere before?
way before that.
Yeah. And chances are, he knew when he messed up in the beginning. Don't we all know when we mess up in the beginning? And what we do is we avoid it, deny it, hide it, suppress it, numb it, right? Did I mention numb it?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that-
Numb it? Okay, I just want to make sure I said numb it, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Willie?
Yes, I got nothing to say.
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
It really looks nice in here.
Thank you. Well, Willie worked hard on helping get this turned out, and I wanted to say, and I meant to say a while ago, thank you to all you guys that helped us move over a week ago Saturday night. So thanks.
We can all agree that God is the same as he was from day one as he is today, right? He's all the same. So if we look back here with Jacob, with all the deception and the lying and everything, that's still going around today, right? Right. So if God could help him out 3,000 plus years ago, probably, I don't know the math on that.
Yeah.
Why can't he help us today? Why don't we deserve our healing if we want it? You know, and like I said, everything Jacob's done in one way or form, we've all done it ourselves. I know I have. As far as the question goes, number one, I'll read it to you. But you really need to put yourself in this question, because that's basically for you and me. Who are the people on my step 8 list who strike the most intense fear in my heart when I think about making amends face to face? Them people you really have to think when you approach them.
Now, you remember in step 8, we were just making a list of people, right? We weren't making amends in step 8. Now we got ready to make amends, right? In step 8. And now we're in step 9 and we're making amends. And so the question here is, those people that we came up with, what was the one that strikes the most fear in your heart about a face-to-face meeting? You know, that which one of those faces popped up for you in your thinking? Well, could be. And if that face popped up, don't you think that may be something that would help you out? It's not a problem. It's a healing path. Remember, what are we talking about? What's our title for tonight?
Long-awaited healing.
Okay, so you know, I always smile a little bit when people come up to me and they say, this is going wrong, and all this stuff is out of whack, and I can't figure out what's happening because they're voicing it like it's chaos because it feels chaotic. You follow me so far? And then I say, well, could it be possible this is God's answered prayer that you've prayed because you wanted to get better? And now you're getting confronted with these situations that you want to get them fixed. and it's hard. Could it be this is the answer to your prayer that you said you wanted? What do you smile about?
Cause I've been in that situation and I'm like, God, I take it back. Maybe I don't know what my desires are.
God, I take it back, I don't want this stuff ripped out of me right now.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there, and the fact of it is, but soon as we are willing then to say, wait a minute, this is what I really want, even though it's scary as hell, right? But this is what I want. And this leads right up to the next question, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Go ahead.
Do I have supportive people to help me gain willingness to take such a challenging step? Well, yes. Hopefully, all of you would help me through it. We're all here for the same reason. On that part of it, yeah, each one's a different deal, but in the end, we're all wanting to be better. Part two of that.
Wait.
Well,
And I wanted to qualify a supportive person. This is not a person that tells you what to do. Repeat, this is not a person that tells you what to do. The people will tell you or ask you to tell them what to do, but that's not really what they need.
They know what to do.
They already know what to do. But they need some support to help. The key word here is to help. And that help is like to gain the willingness to take such a challenging step.
To hold your feet to the fire.
Well, I would not say that. I would say encouragement. Okay? Because you're not going to drive anybody to do something, but you can encourage them and believe in them and say, you can do this. You are all this here is to help you to get that prayer that you have asked for. You've wanted to get free from this addiction or issue or problem, and now you're in the midst of having to go through chaos because, see, this chaos is not chaos that turned your world upside down, even though it feels like it. This chaos is working to turn your world right side up. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
But it still feels terrible. But couldn't it be healthy?
Yes.
And having some support to help us go through that scary place. I know I've used this a lot because it has meant a lot to me in the last several years. Psalm 23 says, yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for thou art with me. That's the support we're talking about. I know that God's with me. Now, it's good if we're able to do that, but maybe you're not able to do that. Maybe you need to have some flesh and blood that's on your side. And that's a place to begin. Does that make sense? Because sometimes, well, this just flashed in my head. There is scientific research that says, and they did research with college students where they had a big old hill and they monitored them. And if when they had to climb the hill by themselves, they said it was extremely hard. But if they had somebody standing there at the base of the hill supporting them, they said it seemed to be not as difficult. It's the same hill, same person, but the only difference was there was an unseen force that was released that was help, support, encouragement.
Only thing you can do it, you can do
And
it.
and
Do it.
and it made it easier. Have you ever found that out to be so? Go ahead.
I'm done. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, I feel like I'm about done. Okay. Good morning. So,
anybody get anything out of the lesson? Any insights?
That
A
I'm
couple
writing.
verses come to mind. Hope deferred makes the heart sick.
That's good. Hope deferred makes the heart sick.
And so that kind of describes what was going on in that situation.
Yes.
And then the second thing is from Ephesians 4, verse 28, that says, let him that stole steal no more, but let him work with his hands that which is good, that he may have to give to him that needs. So that kind of describes him going through that, learning how to not steal, but to work with
Right,
livestock so he can give later.
right.
Uh-huh.
And that's true. And see, if we back up and look at it from a psychological, spiritual perspective, that's a shift in how we think and how we feel, which would mean how we operate, our behavior. And so the scriptures are there trying to guide us in that. And so those are two good points of view. And Vanessa, you said something, I missed it.
That I'm where I'm supposed to be, even though it's super uncomfortable,
Hmm.
because I have a history of running.
Hmm.
But then you continue to repeat cycles because you run to the same shit every time.
Hmm.
Or the opportunity is given to you every time because God really wants you to learn how to respond different. And if you keep running, you're not learning to respond any different.
That reminds me of the Einstein quote, that you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. That's the definition of insanity. And that would be an insane state, right? And we're talking about going from that chaotic, dysregulated state into trying to come to a place of peace. And when we come to that place of peace, that means our amygdala is able to tamp down, not be so active, and then your brain's able to come back on, and you're able to think. You're able to even have a better possibility of spiritual connection when we're able to do that. And some of these things we're talking about are really challenging because we want to do that, but what we want and what we do, just like you were saying, is hard. But when we keep hitting those same wall, we finally say, I gotta stop doing that. I have to make some changes. That reminds me of a quote that I was going to read, and I might as well read that now. It says, change your choices, change your life. You'll never change your life until you change your choices.
I keep getting this image in my mind of a commercial washing machine, like the front load, whatever, where you can look in there and okay, to get your clothes clean, and then you put it in there and it looks like total chaos in there when it's washing the clothes. But if your clothes got stuck like they do in the wringer sometimes, and they don't agitate, then they don't get as clean. So sometimes working peace and quiet and numbing yourself, like you say, from the agitation, it's the agitation that gets your clothes clean. It's the chaos.
Yeah, great image. And that's the truth.
Chaos is needed.
Well, everything is a balance between chaos and orders. And that's what he was talking about there. There's And you do have to have, we can walk, yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, and that it means it's a scary, chaotic, uncertain, fearful place. But being able to do that with confidence and some certainty means that you're able to live in a chaotic world but not be controlled by it.
And walk through it,
Walk-
not get stuck in it.
Yeah, walk through it. That's really good, John. Walk through it. Walk through it. Walk through it. And my prayer is that some of the things that we're talking about here, and some of the feelings that you're feeling right now, because I'm assuming you're feeling some feelings right now, and I hope they're feelings that are introduced or induced by the Holy Spirit to help you, to bring you along to say, yes, this is the pathway, even though it's challenging. It's healing. And that brings us right back to the title. And that is that this is the long-awaited healing, mental, physical, spiritual healing that you've wanted. And you say it's hard. Yes, recovery is hard. And anybody that says it's not, they're lying to you, okay? Because it is hard, but it's healthy. Because, see, we have this mechanism, our human mechanism, that wants to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And that's as a survival mechanism. But we're not talking about surviving here. We're talking about trying to begin to live and thrive in life. And that means you have to be willing to say, no, that pleasure is not a healthy pleasure. I don't want to go there, because that's not going to end up good. It's going to tear me up. Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? And we have to learn to make those choices. And we do have multiple events that give us the opportunity to make the choices. Every day, choose you this day, right? Life or death, blessing or cursing. And I know that's the scripture that, that can be just said, but it is so true. And you get to choose. You get to choose. Look for the clock over there. It's up there. Any other comments before we move into the next little bit?
Well, it goes on with the other verse that says, today is the acceptable day of salvation. And like I said, sometimes we get stuck in the valley because we don't want to choose, and the comfort of the bad situation and not wanting to change is better than the agitation, or feels better at the time than the agitation of getting out there and changing. So I think that's part of the reason he said, choose ye this day, like get it over with and not think about yesterday, don't think about tomorrow, think about today.
Maybe he wants us to think of it, today is always today. So this day, that's how I see it.
Today is always today. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. And, and as you were talking, John, I've been, for the last while, I've been going through a book, The Body Keeps a Score, and that's Bessel van der Kolk, and the ACEs study, which is where adverse situation at early childhood basically affects us. And they made such a great statement in that book that the ACEs study shows that's what has happened to us. All the stuff in our age, our early life before the age of 18, And that's what this study was focused on, what happened before the age of 18 affects you, and it affects you mentally, it affects you emotionally, it affects you socially, it affects you financially, it affects you in your health and your longevity. If you have more than 4 of these ACEs, they said those folks live 20 years. They cuts 20 years off their life. And so, but that's what happened to us. But what we've been talking about here tonight is trying to help us to understand that this is what Jacob did, this is what we did, and making amends and having support and having connections and being able to alter my life. And this question that Willie read about, do you have support, someone to help you? That's the thing that alters these early childhood traumas in our life, is that there's support systems, whether they come along in childhood to help you, and that's either a teacher, a coach, or a family member, or a good friend, or later on in life, people that can help to nurture you and help you to become more resilient. And that's, again, goes back to what we were talking about Psalm 23. Being able to walk through the valley of the shadow of death and know that I'm in chaos, but not be controlled by it. And that's that resiliency. And that's what recovery is. And that's what step 9 is about, is to help us to come to the place that we restructure ourselves and give ourselves some internal strength or resiliency, that you can endure hard things and still come out all right. Yes, sir.
So I think it's good that it took Jacob 20 years to get to that point, so that helps me remember, because I've tried to make amends before and was not ready, kind of God is not, I wasn't ready for that healing yet, and was still, it took him 20 years to get to that point. Not saying that it was 20 years to my last step, but I think it's important to keep in mind for me that look, I need to work on these other steps first, and I need to make sure that those actions you were talking about earlier, that I'm doing those actions, my behaviors change, and that I'm actually to that place that I can get that healing.
And the amends itself, a lot of folks have taught the amends process as kind of as a formula that you just have to check these boxes, and checking the boxes, just going through the formula of it isn't the healing. Okay, the healing is coming to the place that your thoughts, you think differently, you feel differently, and your behaviors are different. And because we're going to talk about out of the 10 healing protocols, and I'm just going to go ahead and read a note on 10. And by the way, I have them printed over there on that table. And that is that, remember, forgiveness is more about you moving on to freedom. Okay? Not about the other person. Yes, the other person may be benefited in the process, and that's really good, because that could reestablish a relationship. But the big deal here is that you have some freedom, some healing, some restoration, recovery, transformation. That's what this is about. It's not about checking the box. Even though checking the box is not all bad, sometimes we have to check the box a little bit to help us to engage into the process. I get it. Okay? But it's more than just checking the box, but maybe you have to check the box to be able, your first attempt to work on yourself. You understand what I mean? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? And so we have to come to that place that we are able to forgive and let go. And I'm gonna apologize. We're not gonna go through I'll kick that can on down the road again, because we're not gonna have time. So I'm gonna read you a quick study on the healing power of gratitude. And I thought this tied in with the lesson, okay? The healing power of gratitude. Why not thank others, okay? Gratitude, when you're, when we're talking about gratitude, we're not talking about checking the box that I'm grateful for something that I'm not really grateful for, but I'm going to say that I am, to pretend that I am, because I think I should be, but I'm not really. That doesn't do the work that real gratitude will do for you, okay? And the research says, the study that shows that people, does this sound all right to you? Because I still have a muffling. Is good? Okay, all right. The study that shows that people who experience gratitude increases their happiness level. Does everybody want to be happier? But they said that those that express gratitude will increase their happiness level, lower their blood pressure level. How about that? Lowers their blood pressure level and gets a better quality of sleep, improves their relationships, and have a positive impact on their depression levels. Okay, it alters your depression levels. Gratitude alters your depression levels. Gratitude alters your depression levels. Means it helps. It makes it better. Okay, how does it make it better? Well, other research says that gratitude is sometimes as good as Prozac. Okay. Also, exercise. Improvement improves their relationships and have a positive impact on their depression level and are less affected by pain. We're talking about gratitude, being grateful, practicing grateful. Little things like, you know, the sun is shining, there's salt on the table, you have fries and you have ketchup to go with them. I'm grateful. Many years ago when I went to Nicaragua, all the time in Nicaragua, we didn't have any, where we did have water, it was not hot water when you took a shower. In fact, a lot of times we had to take a shower out of a bucket, you know. And so when I got back, I was standing there at home in the shower saying, I'm thankful for this hot water. You know, so anyway, it lessens the effect of pain. People who have higher levels of gratitude also report sleeping better. So, did we do any good tonight?
Yeah.
I went 2 minutes over. I think that clock's a little fast though, isn't it? So anyway, comments before we close? Thanks for being here, and for you in Internet Land, thanks for being with us. We're at 501 Virginia Street. It's like a half a block from where we used to be, up 5th Street. And so we're here for a live meeting, and so may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And of course, make healthy choices. Till next time, Austin, take care of yourself.